What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chop and Brew. I am Chip Walton. We all know that starting a brewery is no easy feat. From the planning to the execution of that plan, into beer production, promotion, it's a marathon, not a sprint for sure. And it's a marathon full of potholes and hurdles that you probably had no idea were coming your way. Today we're going to hear about some of that experience from two of our friends, two of the four guys starting a brewery called Arbeiter Brewing Company in South Minneapolis. The cool thing is they're about to be open next couple of months after a couple of years of planning and work, but we finally have a beer from them that was done at a pilot system spot here in St. Paul. So me, Brian, Leaf, we join up with Juno and Aaron from Arbeiter over a crowler of their West Coast IPA, and we learn about their Bavarican style of brewing. And then we really get into the weeds with some of the ins and outs of running a brewery. And in their case, they're not only starting a brewery, but they're doing it in the time of not one, but two crises. The pandemic, the coronavirus situation, as well as the social and civil unrest and destruction literally happening like hundreds of feet from the front door of their soon-to-be brewery in South Minneapolis. Grab a pint, learn a little bit about West Coast IPA, learn a lot about what it takes to power through and get a brewery up and running in 2020. Before we roll into it, I want to give a quick shout out to our show sponsors. Without their support, this could not happen. BSG Handcraft, showing love to craft brewers and home brewers. Imperial Yeast with their full line of ale, lagers, and Kvike strains. And of course the super fans, the crew of Chop and Brew that are supporting the show through Patreon. Join them at patreon.com/chopandbrew. Cheers, guys. Cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Clink, 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 clink.
All right, everybody, we're here with Juno Choi and Aaron Herman. What up, y'all?
Hey,
What up?
hey. Good to see you guys.
We're also here with Leaf and Brian Adams. We're all going to talk a little bit about what it's like to start a brewery, brewing with some other folks on your way to building that brewery, and we're going to taste this beer. Oh yeah, we're gonna taste that beer. Let's start with the beer. Like, since we're all sipping it already, Aaron, tell us about the nuts and bolts of this beer.
Gladly. So it's called West Coast IPA. The whole kind of goal, vision, inspiration behind it was to see if I could essentially recreate like a classic West Coast style IPA, but with all German ingredients. Arbeiter is a German word for worker or laborer, and kind of one of our, one of our missions, I guess, or maybe not missions, but one of the things we'd like to do beer-wise is to brew Bavarican style beers. So do American, kind of classic American styles with German ingredients and potentially vice versa. This was our first kind of commercial crack at that. The awesome folks over at the lab in St. Paul, I believe, actually approached us to do like a collab / pilot type brew. And I've had this recipe written for about over a year actually, and I had brewed it in a homebrew setting once, and just because of where life was at, I never really got around to like being able to finish that beer. And so I didn't really know what exactly it turned out to be. So it was great to, scale up and brew a comparable recipe on a commercial system at the lab. And I was actually pretty dang impressed with how it turned out as far as, accomplishing the goal of producing a West Coast, kind of like old school West Coast style IPA with all German ingredients.
What are the ingredients? What's Bavarican about this?
Totally. So, well, the American part of the Bavarican, of course, is that it's a West Coast styled IPA. The Bavarian or German part or whatever, all Weyermann malts, about a 50-50 blend of Pilsner and pale malt, little sprinkles of just like some dextrin malt, and a little bit of some Cara Munich 1, just to get that color in there, that like kind of slightly orangey color. So like a true West Coast IPA, you kind of want the malt profile to be in the background, depending on how strong it is, of course. Well, usually West Coast IPAs are going to be, at least 6% alcohol. So you need some malt, but it's got to be some, a clean malt profile. As far as hops go, some Magnum for some clean bittering at first wort, and then just kind of like an incremental step blend throughout the boil with Ariana, which is a newer, kind of like a new school German grown variety. It's got some kind of berry and resiny type notes. There's some Callista in there, which is another new school German grown variety, which is a really neat hop. It's got some citrusy notes. It's got some old school kind of noble type notes. Lower alpha on that hop. I'm really looking forward to using that hop a lot more and just kind of trying to push it around, so to speak, and see what it's capable of. There's some Mandarin of Bavaria, which I think most of us are probably familiar with. Real intense, juicy, orangey type notes in that one, and then just some Hallertau Middle Fruit actually too in there to kind of tie them all together and kind of express at least a little bit of noble quality with the hop profile, and kind of bridge that over to like the newer new school type stuff. So of course the goal was to make it citrusy, kind of juicy, a little bit resinous, like a old school West Coast IPA should be. This one got White Labs 1007, so does German Ale, which is the Dusseldorf strain as opposed to the Cologne strain. In my experience, in my opinion, kind of the Dusseldorf strain you can get to be a little bit drier or taste cleaner, especially if you ferment it a little bit lower of its temperature range. Like West Coast IPAs, there's really not supposed to be any yeast present, so trying to mimic that with a German, a German ale yeast strain. There's not too many German ale yeast strains really. It's pretty much only two, I guess, and then certain, there's some spin-offs of those two, but yeah, I chose the Dusseldorf alt yeast strain and fermented cool, and kind of try to take a back seat to all those fun hops.
So what do you get? And this is for anybody in the virtual room. What do y'all get? I definitely get like resiny. It's interesting you said berry, because now I'm like, oh yeah, like strawberry skin, like raspberry seed, almost kind of like that, really almost like tannic, not tannic. I don't know what the
I would say for sure, like a little bit of that, almost like blackberry notes a little bit too, because you get some of that tannin flavor or tannin character from kind of those seeds that are in there and stuff like that. So Callista and Ariana are kind of two exciting hops from HVG that definitely I was nice to see how well they turned out in this style.
And I think when you say West Coast, I'm searching for that C hop, there's parts of it there. There's that resinous part of it, but you're trying to find it and it's almost there, but it's not there. So it's that play on that West Coast style, not that C hop, like that bite, but it's almost there. It's really good. I love it.
Right. Yep. And thank you. I'm glad you like it.
So let's talk about Arbeiter. So you guys, there's 4 dudes, you two, and then Garth and Josh. Tell us about, you don't have to go all the way back, but kind of really just talk about coming up with the concept and where your physical space is now.
Well, I think it all goes back to just being friends, right? And working together, and really the iteration of the brewery. Josh, Garth, myself, and Aaron, we all worked at Northern Brewer. And that's obviously where we developed our friendship. But, really, Josh and Garth were looking out for a head brewer for Arbeiter. And that's kind of where I came in terms of they reached out to me, and I kind of gave them a short list, being in the industry for a bit, of people that I thought, would not only fit with the skills that they were looking for, but also kind of like the mindset and personality. So Aaron was one of those guys at the top of the list. And so frankly, after they had hired Aaron, they approached me to be a part of the brewery. And it's something I'd been approached to a few times for a few different breweries, but doing it with Josh and Garth really just, felt right to me in terms of how we believe a business should be operated and just sort of the core values. So that was a couple of years ago, obviously in the planning process, but we're located in the Longfellow neighborhood in Minneapolis. And we're soon to be open. We're just really in those final stages of getting the brewery open. Actually, Aaron just came from the brewery tonight, and they were just finishing pouring the floor and stuff like that over there. So, it's been a journey just like any other small business owner or brewery owner to get open. And we've definitely gone through some up and downs, but it definitely feels good to be in that final stage right here to get open pretty soon. So we're definitely thankful for places like the lab for allowing us to get some of our beer out there before we're open. So that's been a real treat for us to see, and especially see people's responses to the beer.
And you went into like there was a brewery there before, but it needed to get that Arbeiter touch and feel and look that you so wanted. It wasn't as easy as just like flipping a switch on a Friday and flipping a different switch on a Monday, right?
No.
Correct.
Yeah. So the brewery that was there previous to us was a brewery called Arbeiter Brewing Company. They did a lot of Belgian-inspired ales. And so, when we came into the space, they had been gone from that. And really what we were left with was a blank slate. And we did a lot of demo. It's a great space. So a lot of demo, a lot of building, and really just trying to making it the most welcoming tap room and, awesome production facility to produce the type of beers that we want to do. And the nice thing about that area and what Harriet had done, at least before, is they really built a sense of community there. And so, that's one of the things that as we've been building the brewery, people have come up to us all the time and say, man, we had such good memories over at Harriet. We love their music. There's such a welcoming experience over there. And so people are excited to have something back in that neighborhood. And, I think we definitely want to be that place in terms of the community for beer and for everything at large with the community.
Are you guys building in some kind of outdoor space at your location?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So obviously with COVID, with reopening, all that sort of stuff, having a patio right now is pretty darn essential. Luckily, we made the decision, to get our patio floor poured. Just like any business owner, we were deciding, okay, well, should we wait one more year? What's the timing going to be? But we've got a nice patio space with a little spot for food trucks and whatnot, so they can just pull up on the side. So it's integrated like that. So definitely a nice patio. I think everybody's looking forward to being outside and drinking beer now that it's summer. So
for sure.
I just want to get outside of this room one day. Aaron, you've worked at other breweries, kind of talk about having, this is your first time getting what you want, getting it your way from the ground up, kind of talk about the things that you had to consider and things along the way that you've kind of been able to mold and have a good time.
Sure. Well, let's see. As Juno mentioned, my background was first and foremost, I guess, Northern Brewer. I started homebrewing in 2010. Just maybe kind of give a brief history of my brewing experience. It was about a year later, I was volunteering at Vine Park, doing little 3-barrel all grain batches for growler sales. And about the same time, I got hired at Northern Brewer Minneapolis. So I was one of the original, retail sales associates down there. That's where I met Juno for the first time. And about a year or so after that, I got hired at Town Hall as just a, assistant brewer kind of grunt type guy. So I was washing and filling kegs and cleaning tanks and washing and filling growlers for a good year and a half. And then the two guys that were there ahead of me, kind of jump ship as the industry goes. And I found myself in a kind of a lead brewer position at Town Hall after being there for about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. And so it was at the same time that, if you all remember when Town Hall renovated the site at Seven Corners there. So yeah, totally renovated the restaurant, expanded the brewery. It was the summer of 2012 into 13, if I remember right. No, excuse me, 13 into 14 into 15. But so when we came that spring, it was just Mike Hoops and I doing all the brewing for all the tap lines for all the Town Hall locations. So it was, I had like a couple months experience on the brew deck prior to that. And once we reopened, it was, pedal to the metal, sink or swim. And I've thanks with Mike's oversight, I kind of soared above the water. I felt like it was super cool. It was one of the most fun and challenging experiences of my life, but I embraced it and really cut my teeth just having to figure things out. And there was really no room for any sort of failure. I've been through build outs before, and so I kind of know what's lying ahead. And yeah, I'm excited to embrace all those kind of similar challenges, but now I don't have really anybody to lean on, so to speak. It'll be essentially just me calling the shots, at least as far as production goes and stuff. But our team, we're all beer guys, so we all know beer. Juno, Josh, they know production, they know ingredients pretty well. Garth, of course, knows styles, and so we all. I don't want to say I have nobody to lean on, because I'll have an awesome team to lean on. But it'll be fun to kind of see what I'm going to be capable of as a head brewer, and kind of figure out what my where my strengths lie, and just kind of looking forward to doing things my way.
What do you guys have lined up for the future styles or types of beers you're going to make?
Anything. I mean, you name it, really. I was fortunate at Town Hall to kind of learn how to brew pretty much any style. Of course, Town Hall is pretty well known for their barrel aging program. So I think I definitely learned a thing or two about aging beer in wood. So I want to get going on that kind of as soon as is practical as well. To me, it all comes down to yeast strains and knowing how to kind of manage yeast strains. Of course, a Belgian yeast strain is going to be way different from an American yeast strain, and it's just figuring out how to manage the differences in those yeast strains from a production standpoint, and just not rush things. I think with all my little kind of quote unquote tricks of the trade from learning some from a brewer as amazing as Mike Hoops, that's been doing it for well over 20 years. It was fun at Town Hall to kind of as I was, gaining some tenure there, to, approach a problem and then troubleshoot it on my own, go to Mike Hoops and be like, hey, this happened. Here's what I'm thinking a solution is. And he's like, right on, go for it.
Yeah. I also think in terms of Aaron, he comes from a brew pub facility, right? Which is really what sort of the modern day tap room is in terms of the amount and styles of beer that they're making, right? People want variety. And so I'm fortunate to have Aaron as my brewer, because I like to drink a lot of different styles of beer. And that's what's nice about that experience that he's had too. So
you just like to drink beer, Aaron.
You know,
don't lie.
But I love my lagers just as much as I love my IPAs, and we're going to be making quite a few lagers as well too. So that gets me excited.
What about what are some things that you thought you knew 2 years ago that you've learned that you didn't know as much with the whole thing with just starting a brewery?
I would definitely say there's a lot of things that have happened recently, especially in terms of things with COVID, and in Minneapolis with everything that's been going on with George Floyd. Those are some things too that we never would have thought that we had to deal with. And in, at least with COVID, COVID's COVID, but like, at least with George Floyd and our proximity. So our brewery is right by the 3rd precinct. So we are literally 700 feet away from the 3rd precinct. And,
which burned to the ground. Well, it didn't burn to the ground, but it burned for anybody that doesn't know. Like your brewery's right next to essentially it was a war zone for about a week.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A lot of other buildings in the neighborhood burned to the ground.
So, I think that was a little bit of spark for everybody around to really see what's below the surface and what sort of injustices are going on right now. And for us, we didn't plan that to be part of our story, but that is part of our story because we're here in the community and, that's going to help drive us. One, it's driving us to get open as quick as we can. So, as the business owners that are still standing in that area, we're looking around at each other and we have a responsibility to get open as soon as we can to be able to provide a space for the community and, fight for the causes that I believe our community believes in. So, it's definitely, those are definitely some of the things that we never thought of. We never thought about when you think about what breweries can do. Right? They're a place for communities. They're a place for gathering. They're a place for ideas and people to talk. And, that only strengthens why we want to get open and why we decided to start a brewery.
You didn't think you'd have to be sleeping at the brewery on like protection watch, right? Before it was a brewery.
Well, yeah, you're referring to the fact that Aaron and I, after being there every day and most nights, seeing everything from within our eyeballs distance. On one of the nights we decided to stay over, right? Because at that point, when the city of Minneapolis police abandoned the precinct and pretty much abandoned that area at that time, and the fire department wasn't able to get through or any of that places, we wanted to make sure that we were still there. So we stayed overnight to make sure that none of those opportunists that are trying to detract from the real reason why people are protesting, to do that for the brewery, to make sure that none of those opportunists would do damage, to do all this sort of, misinformation in terms of what's going on. So, maybe stupidly, we risked our lives a little bit in terms of being there, but, we had a couple brights full of, a couple 100 gallons of water ready to go. That's what you're referring to in terms of staying overnight. Which is really weird too. We're torn, right?
Yeah.
We've been out there, we've been part of protests. We've also are trying to make sure our business is still around too. And it definitely was taxing on ourselves to be there, but it's important.
When we talk about the legacy of this going forward, if you follow Juno or Aaron or the Arbeiter on Facebook, you can see the artwork that's been put on the plywood. Does that become part of the legacy and move inside and be kept, or what's your plan for all that?
Definitely. Yeah, it is our story. We're going to retain those boards, and we're going to put them in the brewery. And I think how those boards came across is there was different types of messages all throughout. And if you've even seen the news, you see all those. And then there was a little bit of a flip in that an artist approached us after some of our boards were up and said, trying to make sure, can I use your boards as a canvas to, get some messaging out there? And for sure, we're going to take those pieces and we're going to feature them inside the brewery for a bit. Yeah.
So what is left? You talked about the floor being laid, like what's left between now and like a glass going across the bar?
Couple different things. I don't know if you want to talk about the production side of things.
So in the production side, as of last week, our gas supply has been turned off by the company, by Centerpoint. So it still goes back to trying to protect the area from more arson and more fires and damage from fires. So we're working on getting our gas turned on, which of course we need to fire up the boiler for the very first time. We have water supplied to the building, but we don't have water like permanently connected to the brewery yet. So I've done a little bit of a workaround, and I have done a water brew on the system so far. The system is basically commissioned and ready to operate. So like we've tested all the pumps, we've tested all the solenoids for the steam jackets and all the different vessels. The portable pump works, like we have power, everything, literally everything in the entire space, be it contractor stuff or our stuff, was on the production floor, which was the only floor that's been like finished in the entire 6,000-ish square foot space for the last several months. Again, the flooring company is just wrapping things up today, so we'll be able to kind of spread back out. I'll get my production floor back. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to clean and passivate all the equipment and, kind of dial everything in, get all the temp probes, put in the fermenters and bright tanks, and, set everything up. There's still some work to be done. Kind of transition over to Juno here. There's still some work to be done, of course, in the front of house. We don't even have like the back bar put in yet where the draft towers are going to go. We're working with Better Beer Society. They're going to be helping us out, or they're going to be doing our draft line install. And I'm going to be helping them out actually, which will be great. So yeah, I guess, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a few extra things that we got to get our ducks in a row. But we're also trying to navigate how we, just like any brewery that's doing right now, which is, operating, trying to maintain safe practices, not only for their employees, but for the general public too. Luckily with the design of our building, we had some nice advantages in that we have 3 huge garage doors, 2 in the front, 1 on the side with our patio, a few other points that makes even things like to-go beer easier, because I view that will still be a thing that people will do a lot of. Obviously, we'd still love to get some delivery in. Obviously, by the time we open, we'll see what the climate is. But there's a few things in there. Frankly, we've prioritized a little bit less on some of the inside, just based on the fact of the current climate. But we're just damn excited to get people to share our beer, and then once we're ready, or once everyth's ready, to have people come in and check us out.
So when you talk about ramping up now, like this is a whole different start than what you were probably planning. Like now we start with crowlers. Like, did you have that line all set up and ready to go in the beginning? Like, we're switching over from a different type of startup than we thought we might have had. So how is that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so the kind of plan from day one for the brewery was to be, tap room, pretty much tap room only, like 97% tap room sales with crawlers to go. So crawlers were always in the plan from day one. And then even like some kind of commemorative actual growlers, and potentially for special batches, down the road, doing some, maybe like cork and cage 750s and stuff like that. But, and then, real limited draft distribution to certain, kind of favorite beer bars around town. But then during the thick of COVID, it's like, well, shoot, we might need to kind of, pivot a little bit. And then we're looking at doing only crawler sales. And now we've even come back to the point where it's like, well, yeah, as Juno kind of mentioned, we might just have to wait and see when we're ready to actually throw open the doors, what the, what the landscape will look like as far as allowing people to come and sit down and have a pint straight off the faucet in a glass or a plastic cup or something. Yeah. So it's
in my mouth.
We've been kind of like meandering, or kind of like going down this twisty road of just having to kind of react to to what's coming our way. Thankfully, because we've all been around, I think collectively we have roughly 40 years of experience in this industry. So, I think if we put our heads together, we'll be able to, regardless of what's coming our way, we'll be able to, figure out a good way to sell beer. So
it's always good to see some Northern Brewer boys doing good.
Anybody notice this beer has changed since it's warmed? I think I like it warmer.
Oh yeah,
A little more expressive, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. The maltiness is coming out. The hops are blending a little more. This is, man,
Almost a
different
little
from
like
when I first opened it.
This makes me happy. You talking about our beer, getting joy out of it on your birthday.
oh, your birthday.
Hell yeah. You're lucky I got clothes on.
Yeah, kind of got like
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
People just came over and dropped this car for me and some beer. So they're like, bring your ass inside.
All right, guys. Well, we'll track your progress. I think there's probably an episode or two. Maybe there's even a collaboration brew, a pro-am.
Oh, snap.
Arbeiter, pro-am. Oh, man.
I just want to know when the opening is going to be.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
there.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks,
Arbeiter.
Thanks, guys.
Coming
Happy
soon.
birthday, Brian.
Yes, happy birthday, Brian.
Chop for chop.
Brew for brew.
Woo!
Ow, I just ran over my toe with the chair. Arbeiter Brewing Company, of course, is the name of our brewery.
What up, BABA? Happy birthday, boy.
Birthday, Brian.
What up, y'all?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, badass Brian Adams.
Happy birthday.
Badass birthday to you. I thought everybody would sing. I guess.
Man, I've been waiting to drink this forever. Let's drink.
Open it up. Let's do it.
Shotgun?
Go. Ready?
No.
Set, go.
Oh, Lord. I shotgun that beer. I'd be dead on my birthday. Oh.
Yeah, 52-year-olds can't do stuff like that. There's even more gray in your hair today.
What up,
There goes
Mackenzie?
Nugget. Get in
What
here,
up,
girl.
Nugget?
Can't see.
They can't hear you either.
Oh, good. Okay.
We can hear you.
Oh, they can hear you.
What?
Yeah.
Tell her it's happy birthday.
Hey, Kenzie, come sing happy birthday.
Why?
They want you to sing happy birthday.
Why? Because it's your dad's birthday.
Hi, Felicia.
Wow. No respect on your birthday, boy.